When you were in your 20s and 30s, didn't 50 and 60 seem so old, almost ancient? I know, for me too. But now that I'm in midlife, I am more happy and peaceful than I've ever been because I stopped doing these 10 things. If you're craving more peace, fun, and joy in your life, then keep listening. I'm sharing with you why I quit these things, how they brought me more happiness, and give you steps so that you can stop them too. The last one was by far the scariest, but also the most rewarding. The first thing I quit was trying to always be perfect, always striving for perfection in anything I did. What that kept me from doing was moving forward with tasks and with projects. It would keep me procrastinating because if I couldn't do it perfect, then I would procrastinate or I would not do it at all. I now call myself a recovered people-pleasing procrastinating perfectionist, and I'll go into those other two in another video. But quitting trying to make everything perfect or be perfect myself has brought me so much peace in my life. This need to be perfect came from childhood. It came from the thinking that if I was perfect, then I would be accepted, then I would feel loved. And so it became a habit to always try to be perfect and not show my flaws. But I discovered that perfect doesn't mean what we think it does. And I discovered that through looking up the word imperfect. We think it means flawed, right? And that always keeps us thinking that there's something wrong with us, something that needs to be fixed. And what imperfect actually means, the root of it is imperfectus. And in Latin, that means not complete. That changes the whole game for me because I'm for sure incomplete. My life is not complete. So therefore, I am imperfect. And it brings this sense of peace and freedom to me to know that I don't need to strive to be perfect because being imperfect doesn't mean that something's wrong with me or that I'm flawed. Have you ever done this? You've got an invite to go to happy hour or go to a party and you say, sorry, I can't make it. Or you are going up to the grocery store and you get to the door at the same time as somebody else and you're like vying for position to the door and you're like, sorry, you apologize, right? Why do we apologize when we haven't done anything wrong? That's my number 2 thing that I quit. I quit apologizing because in most of the instances, I didn't do anything wrong. There's no need for an apology. Now, I'm not saying I never apologize because I'm human. I'm going to hurt someone's feelings. But this over apologizing for not returning a phone call right away, not being able to come to a party, needing to leave a party early, or you go out to happy hour with your friends and you're ready to go because you want to get to bed and you say, sorry, but I have to go. There's no need to apologize. When we over apologize, we are diminishing our self-worth and our confidence because we're telling ourselves subconsciously that we're not deserving of making a decision for ourselves or for putting ourselves first. And so we apologize in order to make ourselves feel better that we're telling the person no. We don't want to disappoint them or hurt them. So we apologize. My pet peeve, sorry I didn't text you back right away. We all have lives. If you don't text me back right away, you don't pick up my phone call, you don't return my phone call right away, you have a life. And your priorities, your time, what you do with your time is yours. There is no need to apologize for it. So that's my number 2. I quit apologizing. If you struggle with apologizing, I'd love for you to comment below and I will give you some reframes on how to not say sorry, but respond to whatever it is that they're asking, because there is a way where you won't diminish yourself in the process. So comment below and I will help you reframe your sorries. That brings me to number 3. When you have to tell someone no, that you can't do something, a lot of times what we end up doing is saying, no, I can't because my cousin asked me to go to Texas that day and so we're driving to Texas and I have to pick her up first. And we go into this long-winded explanation about why we are saying no. We're trying to diminish the impact on the other person because we don't want to feel as though we're making them feel bad by saying no. So we think that an explanation will actually soften the blow. But an explanation actually diminishes your confidence and it takes away your power. Even if they say, well, why? You can just say, because I can't, or because I already have plans. There is no need to explain yourself. Your time is yours, and what you do with your time and your life is your business. It's no one else's business. So there's no need to offer an explanation because, again, it just diminishes your power. In your subconscious, you're telling yourself that you're less important than that other person, and you feel as though you need to explain why you're doing something. You explaining why you're doing anything in your life is not necessary. Number 4 was an easy one for me. I quit listening, reading, watching any news. Maybe you're asking yourself, but how do you find out things in the world? The things that I need to know, I'll know. And I can look things up and actually sort through what I want to read about or hear about without listening to all the tragedy and all the bad stuff that they feed us in the news. How often do we hear good things in the news, right? Because good news doesn't sell. So we get fed a lot of stress and fear through things that we hear and read about in the news. So I stopped taking it all in. If there's something I need to know, I will find out. Then I'll act accordingly. But I don't want to take in all the stuff that is negatively impacting my inner peace. This one kind of goes along with number 4, and that is I stopped blindly following the advice of authorities. A trait of a people pleaser is to think that almost everyone in their life is an authority figure and that everyone in their life knows better for them than they do. And that gets us into following advice and following a leader or an authority, an expert, following their advice without any question. I research for myself and figure out, I know my own body best. I know the history of what I've been through. And so I no longer blindly follow someone else's advice. And as a recovered people pleaser, I no longer also believe that all these other people in my life are authority over me. I have agency over me. And that is how I can live more peacefully, by knowing that I will take care of me and I will seek out the help that I need when I need it, but I won't just blindly follow what I used to believe was an authority figure's advice. One of the worst people-pleasing behaviors, I think, and we do it because we were conditioned again to do it. We were taught to be good girls and boys, and we do it to be liked and accepted, and that is to be nice, to go along, to get along. That is one of the most devastating people-pleasing behaviors because we are not being our true selves. We're morphing ourselves. We're becoming chameleons to fit in to what someone else or a group of people, what we think they want us to be. And we are not being authentic when we're doing that. So being nice is not actually nice. It's not kind. And kind and nice do not mean the same thing. Nice means I won't rock the boat. I won't speak up. Kind means I will speak my truth no matter what. I'll speak it kindly, but I will speak it so that the other person knows my position and where I'm coming from. They know me, they know the authentic me. So I quit being nice. I had to get fired from my job in order to fully learn this next lesson, and that is letting others determine my value. I got fired from my corporate job of 7 years. I was the longest running employee. I had almost daily accolades. They sung my praises. And I took that in and allowed me to think that my value was higher because of external validation. And when I got fired, when I got suddenly let go from that position, my value bubble was instantly popped. And I took a little time to recover from that and realize that I had been allowing them to determine my value through what they said about me. And once that was gone, I had to recognize that my value doesn't come from outside of me. It comes from me. It comes from within me. And if I can't value myself without someone else validating me, then I have some work to do. And so I went to work big time on that. And I no longer now allow someone else to create my value. I know that that comes from within me. I am the source of that for myself. When we value ourselves fully, we will feel the value from outside. But until we can do that, we will seek to be validated. And that really is a thief of inner peace and happiness, is to seek external validation. Because if you're not getting it and you're needing it to be happy or peaceful, then how are you going to be happy and peaceful when you're not getting it? So I quit allowing my value to be determined by someone outside of me. There's a saying that expectations equal premeditated resentments. The 8th thing I gave up was having expectations that someone or something will be different or will change. This just creates resentment in us. And think about it, if you are expecting someone else to be different or to change, what are you asking them actually to do? Or what are you telling them? What are you indicating to them? You're actually indicating to them that you don't accept them the way they are. And if you're on the receiving end of that, how does that feel? That someone is expecting you to change because they don't accept you the way you are. So I stopped expecting people or things to be different, because when we want something to be different, we don't have control over that. And the only thing that it's going to do is steal your happiness and steal your inner peace, because you are striving to create change in something that you have no control over. So letting that go, letting people and things be what they are, who they are, will create so much peace and bring you so much happiness when you can just let go of all of that. Number 9 is I quit feeling selfish when I did something for me. We got a bad rap when we were taught the word selfish. The word selfish actually means to do something to the detriment of someone else, to do something for myself to the detriment of someone else. And me putting myself first, me taking time for myself, me doing activities that I love. I'll give you a really personal example. When I was married, we were only married for 3 or 4 months. He was out doing yard work. I had asked him if he wanted my help. He said no. I was in the house doing my own thing. And I decided that I wanted a snack. And he hated sushi. I loved sushi. We had gone out for sushi the night before, but he had had, something cooked. There was leftover raw sushi, and he wasn't going to eat it, right? And so I decided that I wanted a snack, and so I thought, oh, perfect. Leftover sushi, perfect snack. He comes in a little bit later as I'm standing at the counter eating these leftover pieces of sushi, and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm having a snack. I'm eating the leftover sushi, and it's so good. And he said, were you going to offer me anything? And I said, you were outside doing work. I asked if you wanted my help and you told me no. And he said to me, only selfish people do what you're doing. And I said to him, so you're calling me selfish? And he said, no, I'm just telling you that only selfish people do what you're doing. I was like, wow. And I actually thought, am I being selfish? Like, is this, I had second thoughts about it, because we were taught when we were young that selfish was a bad word. We were given this bad rap about the word selfish. And so now anytime we do something for ourselves, we feel guilty or we feel selfish. And that is not the meaning of the word. So to give you an example of how we were conditioned to think this way, my mom gave me this calendar 20 plus years ago, and it sits up on my bathroom counter. It's one of those daily calendars that you flip over, and it's called Heartwarmers for Mothers and Daughters. So it ended up being like a permanent fixture on my bathroom counter, and I don't even see it most of the time. But for some reason, on May 22nd of this year, I decided to turn it over and read what it said. And it says, "Forgive me and love me, God, when I am selfish. It is not easy to always think of others first." That tells me that if I don't always think of the other person first, that I'm being selfish. And I just think that we have been given a lot of messages, a lot of conditioning when we were young, and we don't have the capacity to question these things when we're young. And so we just grow up believing that they're true, because why would these people in our lives tell us things that weren't true? So we end up believing these things about ourselves that just aren't true. You are not selfish for putting yourself first, for thinking of yourself and doing for yourself the things that you need to do to fill your cup. Before I tell you number 10, the scariest thing I quit, I would love to know what ones resonated with you, what ones landed, which ones have you struggled with quitting, which ones were easy for you to quit. Comment below. The number 10 thing that I quit was tolerating toxic relationships. It's very common for people pleasers to find themselves in toxic situations, in toxic relationships, for a lot of the reasons that I've already mentioned in this video. We want to be liked and accepted, so we're nice and we tolerate hurtful behavior, or we think that we're overreacting, that we're making a big deal out of nothing, that we're being too emotional, too sensitive. Many times take the blame for things, thinking the other person is the authority figure, feeling guilty for putting myself first, or wanting validation. These are all things that can attract a toxic person into our lives. There's a slew of reasons how people pleasers can end up in these toxic relationships. And these relationships aren't just intimate relationships. These can be with friends. They can be with family members. So don't think because it's not an intimate partner that it can't be toxic. These types of relationships steal our peace and our joy, and I no longer will tolerate this kind of toxicity in my life. I ended a marriage that was less than a year old because he became controlling almost the minute we said I do. And again, I realized that I do not want that toxicity in my life. I deserve to have peace and joy and happiness. And with that toxic behavior in my life, there was no way I was going to have that. I have so much more peace and joy and happiness in my life just from quitting that one thing. And you might be wondering, well, how do I just get out of a toxic relationship? Or how do I even know if I'm in one? Well, I have an entire video on how to know if you're in a toxic relationship and the boundaries I set to get out of mine. To watch it and learn the steps I took, go ahead and click on the screen right there.